What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to it.
At the turn of the first and second decades of the XXI century, the management of the brand Hyundai came to the conclusion that to attack the European market in the D segment, some other car is needed, not so Americanized and Asian as the Sonata offered at that time. The design center in German Rüsselsheim received a technical assignment, and in May 2011 the novelty appeared before the eyes of visitors of the Motor Show in Barcelona. Technically, the car was built on the same platform as the Sonata, front suspension, independent, spring, McPherson type, with a stabilizer bar, rear suspension, independent, spring, multi-lever, with a stabilizer bar. Thomas Berkel was responsible for the development of the exterior design. In the fall, sales of i40 in Europe began, with the station wagon first introduced to the market, and only in 2012 sedans appeared in European showrooms. At the same time, the first i40s appeared in Russia, and many automotive publications, including Us, expressed bewilderment. Why was an engine so seriously inferior to the competitors' engines in terms of power chosen for a car that was to attack the market positions of the popular Toyota Camry, Nissan Tina and Ford Mondeo? After all, from the whole range offered in Europe for the Russian market was left only atmospheric 4, NU 2.0, G4NA, and deformed to 150 horsepower to bring it into compliance with the Russian tax legislation. In pair to this engine were assigned 6-speed mechanics V6 CF1 or classic 6-speed automatic A6 MF1. Prices came in line with the real market situation in 2013 when the assembly of i40 for Russia was established at the plant of Toda in Kaliningrad. In 2015, the model underwent a restyling, the car received a new radiator cladding, a number of not too significant changes in the interior, but most importantly, the engine lineup was supplemented with a 141 horsepower turbo diesel 1.7 CRDI D4FD combined with pre-selective robotized gearbox with dry dual-clutch DCT7, D7 UF1. At the same time, i40 with heavy fuel engines turned out to be not only more economical, but also somewhat more dynamic than 150 horsepower gasoline versions. Nevertheless, the bulk of sales came to the proven combination of gasoline engine with classic hydromechanics. In 2017, the model left the Russian market, and its place in the lineup was again taken by the Sonata, which by that time had acquired a global status. However, the Hyundai i40 is not badly represented on the secondary market. The price range is very wide, from $550,000 to $650,000 to $1.85 to $2.0 million, and the price is determined not so much by the year of release as by the mileage. Quite a large number of copies have a mileage of 250 to 400,000 kilometers, and a restyled car of 2016 to 2017 with a high mileage and taxi passed can cost 3 times cheaper than an i40 from a private owner with a mileage of less than 100,000. Diesel variants are sparsely represented, and for them asked from $930,000 to $1.6 million. Universals are about 20% of the total offer, and for them, depending on the year and mileage, asked from 700,000 to 1.7 million rubles. Well, now it is time to get acquainted with what their owners write about i40. Many companies, developing their lineup, try to keep the models belonging to different classes and segments in the same style. This often results in matryoshka dolls that are remarkably similar to each other, differing in appearance only in size. From the point of view of marketing, the picture is somewhat contradictory. Owners of junior models are pleasantly warmed by the fact that other road users need to look closely to recognize the car, and in review mirrors, junior and senior models are often indistinguishable. But the owners of larger, more powerful and, of course, more expensive cars can be very offended. Hyundai i40 owners often complain that their cars, which the brand positioned as a business class, are confused on the road with cheap and mass Hyundai Solaris. The first impression of most people: you bought Solaris. Just killed. This is a business class. What Solaris? Disputable appearance. Big Solaris. Design, of course, controversial. Many people compare it with Solaris, but that's just the way it is. As a result, according to them, on the road other road users treat the car in the same way as the Solaris, which means, somewhat disdainfully. To be fair, all this applies to i40s produced before 2015. After the restyling, the resemblance ceased to catch the eye, and for some people it became one of the factors that influenced the decision to buy. I wouldn't buy a pre-restyle, it looks a lot like Solaris. But in 2017, after the if we take away from the similarity with Solaris, the overwhelming majority of owners evaluate the design more than positively. Some even call i40 the most beautiful model within the class. Appearance is a seductive beauty. I, as well as many people, had been treating Koreans negligently before, but i40 appearance made me change my opinion. Someone evaluates a little more reservedly. It is pretty, I liked it at once. But I do not consider it something unearthly. Indeed, the Hyundai design language adopted in these years, called liquid sculpture, may seem a bit pretentious to European tastes. Someone thinks that such design will not get bored for a long time. The design of the car, both exterior and interior, I think, will be relevant for many years. Someone thinks that everything is exactly the opposite. The car is really nice, but, as it seems to me, it is a so-called temporary design. Now it is fashionable. In a couple of years, not anymore. Someone is sure that the car attracts attention by itself. If there is Mondeo, Passat or Mazda next to it, they stare more at Ike. And someone still has the notorious similarity with Solaris as a thorn in his side. I constantly catch the eyes of other car owners. As it seems to me, all the same because of original design of a body, and not because of a question, Solaris it or not. In any case, in many reviews the authors tell that the decision to buy was quite spontaneous. I came to the showroom, saw it and bought it. And one more moment, connected with appearance. A lot of people say that the station wagon looks much more favorable, solid and harmonious than the sedan, especially since in this type of body the similarity with Solaris is not so striking. But the owners of the i40 complain about the music in the cabin. And what is there to scold? They scold invectively. Most of all, the quality of radio waves reception in FM band radio reception is just disgusting. On accent I drove to the Tula region and listened to Moscow radio stations in peace. On this one already on the Moscow Ring Road I can hear everything through a word. Disgusting work of the receiver in the city, even to compare with nothing. The antenna is located on the perimeter of the rear window. There are often interference on FM. I do not remember that it was even on cheap cars. Radio, complete junk. Out of town listening is impossible. Almost on the first day I noticed the radio catches stations disgustingly. There was never any interference at home, but here it's just interference. Driving around the city, the signal is very unstable. Went to the forum, it turned out it's also bad radio. From a flash drive, everything is normal. However, there are also differences in the quality of playback from external sources. In some reviews the authors praise the audio system installed in i40, good acoustics. There is no vibration and the plastic does not ring from bass. I have not added anything and most likely I will not. But the majority of authors are still dissatisfied with it. The acoustic system should be changed without questions. I changed the head unit. It is impossible to listen to the native one. I had to put an adapter frame. The sound became much better. What killed me was the music. My phone plays better, by God. In many reviews, the authors note that Hyundai i40 is a car that is unburdensome, reliable and hardy. I am satisfied with the car. I have seen such cars with mileage under 200,000 kilometers. They were still alive, and everything worked. The car was built in 2013, 300,000 kilometers without overhaul, only consumables. Judging by the mileage, these cars clearly had a chance to work in a cab. On the secondary market there are really quite a few cars with taxi past. On the one hand, this is an indicator, because a private cab driver or the owner of a cab company will instantly get rid of a car that will be fixed more than driving, and will never buy this model again. On the other hand, cars that have worked in the cab industry should be especially carefully checked when buying simply because of the hard use and high mileage. As for cars from private hands, the owners write that over the years of use, they have never once encountered the need for serious repairs. In the worst case, something minor. The author of one of the reviews calls the most serious problem for 5 years and 98,000 kilometers of mileage the need to replace windshield wiper blades. Someone writes that once every 2 years the review camera fails because during washing moisture gets on the contacts, they corrode, and the camera fails. About the same trouble happens with parking sensors. The sickest place of this car is the standard parking sensors. They consistently fail every 6 months, and one such sensor costs at least 3,000 rubles. It was very annoying. The suspension is also quite robust. In some reviews the owners still tell about that for years of exploitation they still had to change a ball bearing, and it is changed. Together with a front lever, or steering lugs, or brake discs, or hub bearing, or stabilizer struts. But there is a lot of evidence that suspension and running gear may not require any interventions even at considerable mileage. I thought, if something goes wrong, shock absorbers leak or a spring breaks, I will immediately rebuild the suspension. That's how I drive, as it was, nothing broke or leaked, and I've had the car for almost 5 years, and its mileage is 98,000 inch. Does not cause much trouble in the body, although in this respect there may be copies with certain problems. The edge of the roof is blooming, but I do not live in Moscow, and we do not have reagents. There are rusts on the trunk lid. It is good that at least the door sills and hood do not bloom. I would like to note the poor quality of paintwork. I had to paint several elements because of chipping from normal use. If we talk about serious problems that the owner of Hyundai i40 can face, it is scoring in the cylinders of the G4NA engine. This disease can be called quite common, although not all 100% of cars are subject to it in any case, out of more than 100 reviews about the problem really write in 3. But the problem is really serious, well, and the most important thing is the motor. At 110,000 he knocked. Before the purchase, I, like everyone else, thought that this happens only to those who do not change the oil in time, and I will bypass it. But it was not so. In general, I recapitalized the engine, installed oil injectors. All this cost me 100,000 rubles. In fact, liner overhaul with installation of oil injectors is a fairly well-tried operation. The authors of some reviews even advise to take advantage of it and save a lot of money when buying, if someone wants to buy such a car. I recommend to buy it at the bottom of the market with scuffing and spend 80 to 100,000 on lasing. The owners do not advise ordering contract motors. As a rule, they are all scuffed and do not last long without intervention. In general, owners of Hyundai i40 are quite satisfied with the quality of their cars' interiors. But there are a lot of reviews in which their authors complain about crickets that started under the trim, and it began literally after leaving the showroom. To be fair, these complaints mostly concern pre-restyling cars, but to say that after 2015 this automobile entomological problem was completely removed, too, it is impossible. Warmed up a little and slowly drove off. And then music from all sides, different tones, squeaks in the performance of crickets, literally an orchestra of crickets, as if the car is about to fall apart. Am I what? Jiggily bought. Tells about his woes one of the owners. After about a month, the first sore spot came out, the squeak of the armrest and the torpedo, yes, so strong that you could not put your hand on the armrest. In my 2114 so did not squeak. Started crickets, mileage 900 kilometers. After 20 minutes of warming up the car at a speed of 5 kilometers, H begins to crack the panel. Or in the middle, or on the right, do not know exactly. And when the car is cold, these noises are absent, echoed the authors of other reviews. According to the owners, official services, as a rule, refuse to carry out disinfestation within the framework of their warranty obligations, so the network has enough recommendations on home methods of combating these annoying insects. Most often they advise to install some seals at the junction of the upper part of the front panel and the windshield. Some people make some seals from UAZIC or buy rubber bands on AliExpress. There are even mysterious situations about a painful topic, that is about crickets. A week ago I tried the following trick. I folded a small towel and inserted it between the driver's seat and the tunnel with armrest. Surprisingly, the most important cricket was gone. Apparently some plastic had moved a millimeter. Miracles. But the owner's ears are upset not only by malicious crickets, but also by road noise. It is noteworthy that owners evaluate noise insulation so differently that sometimes it seems that we are talking about fundamentally different cars. The authors of some reviews write that noise insulation is excellent. You close the window and you do not hear extraneous sounds at all, or that a pleasant bonus will be a cool noise insulation. It is really quiet in the cabin. Others categorically assert that noise in the car is absent as a class. If you drive at high speeds, you have to speak loudly to be heard, or that noise insulation of wheel arches is terrible. All noise comes from there. But in the vast majority of reviews, the authors recognize the presence of some problems, but do not consider the situation catastrophic. Oh, noise insulation. When I was told that it was noisy, I thought, well, it depends on what you compare it to. But for a sedan of Class D, it is really not oddly. Of course, I don't have to shout in the cabin, but it feels like it was better in the 308 Peugeot. The cabin is quite cozy and quiet, but not for D-Class. There is no noise in the arches at all. Especially it is noticeable when you move out on unpaved roads or drive on puddles. The owners are also comforted by the fact that the problem is characteristic not only for i40. There is no noise, as well as on everything else in this class. Formations, noise insulation is really not very good. Who likes good noise? It is not about Koreans. Noise is weak, of course, but, on the other hand, now on almost any car for comfortable movement it is necessary to make it. The owners come to the conclusion that this issue should be addressed. The noise insulation really needs to be done. Roof, floor, arches, doors, trunk. When I opened it up, it was bare metal. Those who say that it is not necessary to do, I envy them. I would have such hearing of the unpleasant, disgusting noise insulation of the roof. For myself, I solved this problem with additional noise insulation, at the same time with the ceiling shishumel the entire cabin and doors. The standard acoustics after noisy doors began to work much better. I made liquid undefenders, partially solved the problem. The only disadvantage is the road noise, eliminated by noise insulation of the floors. Large cars are bought in order to get a large internal volume, sufficient for a large company not to feel cramped while moving in space, and, without any doubt, Hyundai i40 quite allows to realize these goals. There is enough space, both in front and behind. 5 people with a child get in without straining. The salon is spacious. The salon is very spacious. Very. People with the height of 193 to 197 centimeters sat behind me, and there was still 15 centimeters from the knees to the seat. My height is 183 centimeters. The cabin is spacious. There is enough space. I am 190 centimeters tall, and I am comfortable. People with the same height will sit behind me without problems. I was very pleased with the roomy interior, quite large people. In 3 were not cramped on the back seats. The owners rejoice. Indeed, what else is needed for transportation of a not small family? Unless a large trunk, but with this question is observed almost full order. The authors of reviews testify, I used to stow 3 bicycles in the trunk, though with disassembly. The trunk is impressively large and capacious. I know for sure that in all classmates it is smaller except for Sonata. The trunk allows to transport both a snowcat and a Vatrushka. And also my skis. The rear seat one folded down, and that's all. Naturally, the station wagon offers the greatest opportunities for luggage transportation. A stroller flies in with a whistle, too. Bicycles fit in with the seats folded down, or 2 baby carriages. You bet, 553 liters according to VDA, and it is in 5-seat configuration. The trunk of the sedan is not bad either, 503 to 505 liters. But there are certain negative aspects here. As one of the owners writes, another victim of design is the trunk. Spacious as red square, but with a low opening, and there are no niches or pockets for car accessories. That's why for all my car accessories I bought a plastic box and mesh pockets on Velcro for a fire extinguisher, antifreeze and other things. No fasteners, nets, not very convenient either. Everything dangles around the trunk. By the way, after restyling in the trunk appeared an organizer and nets, but the configuration has not become better. The trunk is deep, but the stroller will not fit, as the aperture is low. The trunk is capacious, but levers on the sides interfere, because of them it is not possible to close the lid when loading 4 wheels, and we had to put one in the cabin. But in any case, as the author of one of reviews wrote, if you are a fan of large sizes of a trunk and a salon, then a Sirocco is what you need. Well, and the peculiarities of the configuration of the luggage compartment just need to be taken into account. When you read discussions of dynamic capabilities of i40 in the network, sometimes you get a feeling that people are talking not about the same car model with the same engines, but about completely different cars. On one poll of opinions, Koreans have not horses, but ponies under a hood, and not the healthiest and loving to eat. You press a tap, the engine roars and does not go. There is nothing to tell about 2-liter engine, it does not go, 2-liter. i40 is a vegetable, the car does not go, you want to go out and kick the ass. On the other pole, no problems neither with overtaking, nor with rearrangements on 2-lane highways, despite the 150 horsepower engine. The car has very confident dynamics, and there is no fear that at the right moment, when you want to overtake a passing vehicle, you will not have enough dynamics to do it. But en masse the authors of reviews write that the engine is quite enough for a city and quiet driving on a highway, but nevertheless, such car should have something more powerful under a hood. The main thing is that the classic 6-speed automatic gets along well with the motor, although the power is just enough. The engine is enough in the city for sure, but on the highway when overtaking, it is more convenient for me to steer with steering wheel paddles. Dropping a couple of gears down, 150 HP for such a business-class sedan is not enough. More would be 50 to 60 horses to throw on would be in a vain. One thing saves, possibility to switch automatic box manually, the engine is enough. Exactly enough, that is, I have not felt any reserve yet. Accordingly, older owners describe the situation in very calm expressions. The automobile is not for races, but it suits me at protracted overtaking. The power is not enough, otherwise dynamics is enough, up to 170 to 180 km per hour to go quite comfortably. The engine, of course, not a fire, but for quiet driving is enough, paddles shift paddles save, if necessary. And in case of those who like hotter, the lack of hurricane dynamics may become critical. It is not created for a young man. I want sharpness of control and dynamics. Here and there are literally cries of the soul. Well, why such engines? Why do you put 2 liters in such a car? What is this trick? What? There is no 3-liter. There is, and very reliable, good engine, but it burns 14 to 17, and God be with it. Or the 2.2-liter diesel from the Santa. What? You couldn't cram it in. Then it would be an airplane, and I'm sure sales would be just cosmos. The evaluations of the suspension performance are no less contradictory. I did not like that the car is very stiff, and the suspension travel is very short. All joints on overpasses, small bumps, gravel, all this is not comfortable for this car. Immediately did not like the soft suspension. Not that the car floated left-right, there is no such thing. But a lying policeman is almost always a breakdown to the limiters. Suspension is comfortable, never broke through, the road holds. Well, suspension, very comfortable in the city, on the waves of concrete turned out to be several unpleasant breakdowns, and at relatively low speeds, breakdowns of the front struts on the waves of the highway at speeds over 100 km per hour. It punctures in such a way that you think, either the wheel has flown off, or the windshield is about to fall down. It is designed for smooth European roads. I have a phrase in my head every time I drive on uneven roads, business class, and that's it, but not on bumps. And this is about the same car. And there are enough of those who believe that the i40 suspension is not too soft and not too stiff, but exactly what is required in our conditions. That it can be called perfectly balanced, that with sufficient softness it is quite energy-carrying, that with sufficient driving comfort the car perfectly keeps the trajectory and enters corners like on rails. Perhaps in this matter it is better to rely not on someone's opinion, but on one's own feelings. But in the question of assessment of passability and ground clearance there is complete unanimity. In our conditions 140 mm is very little. It is not enough in the city, where it is necessary to park with great caution near curbs. The front bumper hangs very low. I have already got used to it, but at first I often hit it. Now I try not to run over curbs at all. It is not enough on suburban dirt roads. You should drive super carefully on pits. You will not scratch anything, but you will hurt. The bumper, I do not advise to drive on potholes. You can tear off bumper covers. You can't put back very thin fasteners on bumpers. The clearance is catastrophically small for trips to fishing and with tents. 14 centimeters of clearance and a long wheelbase may not let you go further on a small hill or ditch. And not enough in winter. Winter is not a particularly pleasant season for the Soroka. It lays down on its belly. Just give an excuse. It is only disappointing that it is low. In winter it is very disturbing. In snowy days sometimes had to go out with a shovel. For me the main disadvantage is the clearance. Especially in winter time. For some owners the lack of passability and ground clearance became the main reason for sale. I live in a private house and our roads are not always cleaned. In any case, according to the owners, there is nothing to say about passability. This is a car for asphalt. That's all. Yes, Hyundai i40 is not intended for racing, but as a family car it is very good. Actually, the big automobile with a voluminous salon and a trunk by definition becomes an embodiment of family values. But it is in long journeys with the family on board that the Soroka shows itself best of all. Firstly, the vast majority of owners say that they really like the driver's seats. I like the seats. It was easy to drive 2,300 kilometers to Crimea in 24 hours. The seats are great. I'm 190 years old. It's comfortable to drive and there's plenty of room behind me. Thank you especially for the driver's seat. It's incredibly comfortable. The seats are just a song. I just love them. I would take them with me in a new car. I can't help but notice the comfort when driving long distances. There is virtually no fatigue. But it's not just the driver who feels good. The author of one of the reviews notes that trips to the south, 2,000 kilometers one way, in the presence of replacement drivers allowed to move almost continuously, up to 600 to 700 kilometers you cannot stop at all. The car is created for people. Comfort, silence and the size of the cabin allow you to drive almost without stops, changing drivers at gas stations and resting on the back sofa. No less important is the driving comfort, including the smoothness of shifts of the 6-speed automatic, to the undoubted pluses. I will refer the smooth operation of the engine and automatic. I did not expect any feats from the 2-liter atmospheric motor, but acceleration is confident. The gearbox shifts in time. There were no jerks or jolts on the new car, and there are none now. We went to the sea, to Moscow, traveled with the whole family. Comfort and feeling of a ship. Children are delighted, because in the cabin at speed you do not feel it at all. Only when you reduce the speed to 80, it seems that you walk. We traveled half of Russia by car. The large trunk is also quite appropriate. We went on vacation with 5 people, all of them fit comfortably, and there was enough space for luggage for everyone. Another important factor is a large range, which provides a tank of 70 liters. Together with not the highest appetite of the 2-liter engine, it provides a huge autonomy on fuel. The tank is enough for about 1,000 kilometers even in urban conditions, and on the highway you can drive 1,300 to 1,400 kilometers. So in almost every second review you can find a description of successful family trips, trips to Bashkiria and back to Moscow, trips to the southern coast of the Krasnodar territory with the family. Apart from pleasure, there is no hassle. By the way, it is possible to travel with a family not only in summer. I note heating not only front, but also rear seats, which is very rare. At the same time, passengers or children sit in the warmth in winter. When Hyundai introduced the i40 model to the Russian market, it conducted an advertising campaign under the slogan "Business Class," and that's it. Perhaps it was this positioning that led to some disappointment, because in a number of parameters the car did not correspond to the Russian audience's idea of what a business class car should be. After all, we often refer to the business class, executive cars, not only cars of the E segment, but also models that should definitely belong to the D segment, larger cars, upper middle class. Besides, the memories of Hyundai grandeur were fresh, to which i40 with its 150 horsepower engine and dimensions did not reach. For a car of this mass, this number of horses is not enough. It is a shame when the business class cannot leave far behind Lada sedan, writes in his review one of the owners, and this kind of thoughts are expressed by many. But if we consider that i40 is just a big enough family car, the main market task of which is to take away a part of the audience from such Volvo substitutes as Toyota Camry and Nissan Tina, then everything becomes in its place. Owners in their reviews formulate it so: if you need a car for transportation, without excessive ponce in the part of prestige, dynamics, and clearance, Hyundai i40 will suit you. It is a good car, but it is not a business class. Koreans overdid it with the slogan "business class" and that's it. But if you need a big car for a family, buy it, you will not regret. In it only it is necessary to invest 40,000 rubles on noise and, at will, 15,000 on music. Those of the owners who realize that they should not expect something supernatural from i40 are more than satisfied with the car. Not Mercedes, but you get an incredible car for your money. But those who expected business class grumble disappointedly, an ordinary car. Without emotions, without zest. A means of transportation. Indeed, the main advantages of i40, in addition to its good looks, comfort and serious option filling, lie on the economic plane. According to a number of authors of online reviews, even purchase on the secondary market in today's conditions can be considered. As a very profitable event, I consider the best car in terms of price, appearance, quality, premiums, year and mileage. No car for this price will be so comfortable, almost new and have so many additional options. According to the authors of reviews, they are also pleased with the cost of ownership. The cost of maintenance is low, from 6 to 18,000 rubles, average 10 to 11, and the service interval is 15,000 kilometers. In terms of maintenance cost, i40 is not too different from Solaris. Transport tax in Moscow, 5,250 rubles per year in case of gasoline engine and 49.35 rubles in case of diesel engine, will not ruin even a person with not the highest income. Hull insurance is not too expensive either, because the owners do not call ICA an unstolen car for nothing. I often leave my car, say, at the subway and pick it up in a couple or 3 days. And don't even close the doors, no one will touch it. As a rule, i40 does not torment owners with continuous expensive repairs, and spare parts are not too expensive. There is, of course, a chance to come across the necessity of engine overhaul, but it is not fatal. And fuel consumption, with very few exceptions, owners evaluate it very positively. Naturally, diesels are out of competition here, but the 2-liter gasoline motor is not distinguished by excessive appetite. Very pleased consumption in mixed mode, quiet style of driving, 8 liters, fuel consumption is excellent, 10.9 L 100 km with. Very dynamic driving in the city, on the highway, 5 to 6 L 100 km, the consumption is ridiculous. With moderate driving I have 8 and 5 L 100 km in the city. Of course, the specific figures of different drivers are somewhat different, but in general you can safely count on the 9th of October liters per 100 km in the city and 6 to 7 liters on the highway. Not bad at all for a large car of segment D, especially if we take into account that the engine quite digests 90-second gasoline. In conclusion, the Hyundai i40 presents a compelling choice for many drivers, thanks to its impressive fuel efficiency, spacious interior, and strong safety ratings. However, potential buyers should also consider its limited engine options, average resale value, and the lack of advanced technology features compared to competitors. Ultimately, whether the Hyundai i40 is the right fit for you will depend on your personal preferences and priorities. Weigh these 5 reasons carefully to make an informed decision that suits your needs. Thank you for watching, and we hope this guide helps you in your car buying journey.